A group known for clearing those who were wrongfully convicted, taking on a West Coast murder case that gripped the country. The Innocence Project is helping Scott Peterson 20 years after he was convicted of killing his wife and unborn child. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Peterson has fought for years to have his conviction overturned, citing juror misconduct. KTVU's Jesse Garvey takes a closer look tonight at how the Innocence Project will be seeking more evidence in this case.
For nearly 2 decades, Scott Peterson has maintained he did not kill his pregnant wife.
That's correct, Your Honor. I'm innocent.
Thursday, attorneys with the Los Angeles Innocence Project in a San Mateo court filing say Peterson's constitutional rights may have been violated during his initial trial and that his case needs a second look.
Are you surprised that they're taking this move?
There are many people who believe that Scott Peterson is innocent. And for the Innocence Project to step up and say, we're going to do a wholesale review of this case is a huge win for the Peterson defense team.
Scott Peterson was charged in 2003 with the 2002 disappearance and murder of his wife, Lacey, and their unborn son, Connor. With evidence mounting against him, Peterson sat down with former KTVU reporter Ted Rowlands, pleading his case to the public.
And now we can really focus on what we need to be doing, which is a missing part of our family. 2 people that should be here with our families.
2 decades ago, Stanislaus County prosecutors said Peterson killed Lacey at their Modesto home. He then dumped her body in San Francisco Bay. Her remains were found in 2003 in the waters near Point Richmond, an area where Scott said he had gone fishing. He was convicted in 2004 of 1 count of first-degree murder for her death and 1 count of second-degree murder for the death of their unborn child, Connor. All the while, Peterson maintained someone else was responsible.
It's my objective by doing these media interviews to get people to start looking for her again. And I'm not going to waste the time defending myself. I don't really care what those people out there think. When people accuse me of some involvement, and I had nothing to do with her disappearance, but people still accuse me of it.
In a statement to Fox 2, his current defense lawyer says, "We are very excited that the incredibly talented attorneys at the LA Innocence Project are lending their expertise to help us prove Scott's innocence."
If there's information that wasn't provided to the defense that could have affected Scott Peterson's right to a fair trial, they're going to bring this motion to get him a new trial. This may not change the result of the case, but at the same time, the public also wants to be assured that the jurors got this right.
LA Innocence Project attorneys will pore over every piece of evidence and even use current DNA technology to test some evidence in their search for answers. The process could take months or even years. In Redwood City, Jesse Garvey, KTVU Fox 2 News.
And as Jesse mentioned, former KTVU reporter and anchor Ted Rowlands covered this case extensively from the start, and he had a chance to interview Peterson shortly after his wife disappeared. He spoke with us earlier today about the impression Peterson left on him.
The bottom line is he's a weird dude. And he was weird when the cops showed up the night that they started to look for Lacey. He was weird every time I talked to him. When I walked into his house, he made us take our shoes off, Chip Vaughn and I. And he was the strangest person when you compare him to any other person that that we've dealt with. We've all dealt with a missing person and the family members. It's horrifying. And those people they scream on the highest mountaintop looking for their loved one, not Scott.
Rowland said he spoke with Peterson's attorney today. He said they want to look at evidence that's linked to a burglary right across the street from the home, looking for any connection to Lacey Peterson's killing. Turning now to the dangerously cold weather here in the West, and new storms packing rain, ice, and snow are on track to hit states from Washington to California starting tomorrow. Emergency managers in Oregon say scenes like this one are the reason they are continuing to urge people to stay at home despite a slight warm-up earlier today. Transportation crews had to shut down one stretch of Highway 26 in Warm Springs today when large trucks started to slide in this area. Trees and power lines also came down in many other spots. And tragically, one downed power line claimed the life of 3 people in Oregon. That line electrified an SUV that had 4 people inside of it. And tonight, an 18-year-old is getting credit for helping to save the life of a child who survived. Fox 12's Adrienne Thomas was there today when she spoke about that experience.
And they're here in part because of the heroic acts of a member of our community.
Portland Fire spokesperson Rick Graves getting emotional at a news conference when introducing 18-year-old Majaya Washington, who witnessed the tragic deaths of 3 people after a power line fell onto their car near Northeast 122nd Avenue in Siskiyou. Washington says just before noon Wednesday, she heard a loud noise and ran outside to see a power line draped over this car and a man trying to get a 9-month-old baby out of the back seat. Washington says he got the baby a short distance from the car when tragedy struck.
He made it to like about halfway, not even halfway up the driveway, like he's walking up the driveway and he slipped, he fell backwards and the bottom of his foot had touched the line. It caught a little fire and it was smoking, and then that was it.
Washington says the baby's mother and a teenager both rushed to help after this, but they also slipped and fell onto the active power line and died from the electric shock. Washington says she was on the phone with 911 when she realized the 9-month-old was still alive. She acted quickly to save the baby on the slick driveway with the active power line.
The baby moved his head, and that's how I knew, that's how I knew he was still here. So I crouched down, I kind of slid, I used my hands to break my fall, and I didn't land on top of his father, but I kind of my hands landed on top of him. And I just grabbed the baby, I pulled him up.
Washington says she was able to get the baby to safety, and fire officials say the baby seemed to be in good condition at the scene when taken to the hospital. Despite how shocking the situation was, Washington says she would step in to help again if faced with a similar situation.
I have a nephew myself, I have little brothers, I would want somebody to do the same. In my mind, all I was thinking about was he's still here, so I have to at least try.
And that was Fox 12's Adrienne Thomas reporting for us tonight. In Western Washington, it's taking longer than expected to get power restored to more than 1,000 Puget Sound Energy customers. The power started going out east of Seattle yesterday. Crews were hoping to have the power restored to everyone by 11 o'clock this morning, but tonight more than 1,600 customers still remain in the dark.
This is extraordinary, actually. It's gorgeous. It's hard to walk, So yeah, it's a little rough when it gets to these temperatures to not have heat and stuff like that. So I'm worried more about people driving though. Really, the roads are pretty bad.
And power crews in this area hoping to be able to restore service to everyone by midnight. People across California are preparing for a whole lot of rain in the coming days from a new round of storms that's moving in off the Pacific. Here is a live look tonight at the famous Santa Monica Pier, and you can see calm weather here in Southern California tonight. Let's turn things over to KTVU meteorologist Roberta Gonzalez, who says conditions are going to begin to deteriorate tomorrow all across the West. Roberta?
Absolutely. These storms that are taking aim on the state of California also affecting the Pacific Northwest. And you were just talking about, Alex, the ice, the snow, the fog. We've created this graphic for you here so you can see exactly what's going on. When you have the warmer air mass, that's when it's raining over the Seattle area. But when you filter in that colder air, less than 32 degrees, that's when you start off with the freezing rain, the sleet, and the snow. And that's what they certainly have been experiencing. Right now in Seattle, it's 36 degrees and it is raining there. And that's the leading edge of the system that will affect the Bay Area adversely on Friday, then roll into Southern California by Saturday. Isn't this a big, beautiful area low pressure? Here is the frontal boundary, the core, the center of the area low pressure right there, right now. You can see the rain is now nicking that northwestern section of the state of California right around Humboldt and Mendocino County, but the bulk of the activity pounding the Pacific Northwest. When you see the shades of pink, that is an indication of the sleet. The white is a reflection of the snow that it is falling. Today's high temperature in Seattle, 38 degrees with the sporadic rain shower. showers. And then in the Bay Area, a pretty seasonal winter day with the increasing cloud cover, all the leading edge of the system that will begin to pour into the Bay Area by lunchtime. In the Los Angeles area, also a seasonal mild day at 68 degrees, obviously under the influence of the air mass associated with the atmospheric river conditions right offshore. So you've got 30s all the way to 60s and 70s in Arizona. So here's the deal in California and the Sierra Nevada area, around the spine of the Nevada mountain range, we do have a winter weather advisory that goes into effect tomorrow night through Saturday, 4 p.m. The snow level begins at 6,500 feet, and we are anticipating about a foot of snow. But keep in mind, in the greater Lake Tahoe area, we do have the lake level at 6,200 feet. So we have a series of storms stacked up. You see the leading edge pushing in on Friday into the Bay Area. By Saturday afternoon, first off in the early morning hours, but mainly in the afternoon, you start to see the bulk of the activity from that frontal bound pushing through that area. And that will affect not only the Los Angeles basin, but all the way into the Mojave Desert. Here's your forecast. Seattle, you will have rain in and out of the rain and snow through Sunday. It's a rain out and a washout throughout the weekend in the Bay Area. Same for Los Angeles and in Phoenix. In the higher elevations of your mountain range, you will experience some snow all the way to the Sandia Mountains and New Mexico.
All right, some serious storms headed our way. Roberta, thank you. Up next tonight on West Coast Wrap, thieves turning stolen cell phones into quick cash. Why some victims are pointing the finger at in-store kiosks that pay money for those used devices. Plus, we're just a few weeks away from the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. Usher is the halftime entertainment, as we know. And coming up tonight, we'll tell you about the performers who will be taking the stage before the big game kicks off. House Republicans hope another hearing on issues at the border will lead to the impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. A House committee met today to hear from families who say they've been hurt by the government's border policy. Many GOP lawmakers say Secretary Mayorkas has been derelict in his duties when it comes to handling an influx of migrants. They believe that calls for impeachment. Secretary Mayorkas has suggested Congress is to blame for the issues at the border. He believes the country's immigration system has been, quote, in dire need of repair for more than 3 decades. His negotiations with lawmakers over border security funding are ongoing. Officials in Colorado say they're investigating a gruesome discovery in Grand Junction. The new owners of a home say they found a human head inside a freezer last week. They told investigators they found it as they were cleaning out the recently purchased home. Testing on the remains is now underway.
We want to make sure that someone doesn't find out that their loved one has passed away through rumors and innuendo. What I can say is that we believe it's isolated. We believe that there's no threat to the community.
Investigators are expected to reveal more information about the case when they get test results, but that could take a significant amount of time. We're following developments today in 2 high-profile trials unfolding in Southern California. Opening statements began today in the deadly road rage shooting that killed 6-year-old Aiden Leos back in May of 2021 in Orange County. Aiden was in the car with his mother when she got into a road rage dispute with Marcus Anthony Aries and his girlfriend. In court today, prosecutors told jurors that Aries acted callously when he fired a round at the other car, killing the little boy. Aries' attorney called the shooting a momentary lapse of judgment. Jury selection continued in the murder trial for Los Angeles socialite Rebecca Grossman. She's accused of killing 2 young brothers in a car crash. 8-year-old Jacob Iskander and his 11-year-old brother Mark were walking in a crosswalk with their mom when they were struck in 2020. Prosecutors say Grossman was under the influence and speeding. She's charged with second-degree murder, vehicular manslaughter, and hit-and-run driving, and she's pleaded not guilty. First-time candidate Steve Garvey is feeling confident in his California Senate run. The latest Emerson College polling shows that he is in second place in this race, trailing behind Democrat Adam Schiff. The former professional baseball player who was with the Dodgers and the Padres is running as a Republican. His opponents have not stopped trying to tie him to former President Trump. A Schiff fundraising email says that Trump's MAGA loyalists would turn out to vote for Garvey. Now, Garvey himself has not given a clear endorsement of Trump, although he says he voted for Trump in 2016 and 2020. Still, Garvey says he is focused on his own Senate campaign.
I'll be pragmatic, use common sense, and I'll decide who I think is going to be best for my country and my life. The single most difficult race in America isn't the presidency. It's for a moderate like myself in California.
The last time California voters elected a Republican to statewide office was in 2006, and they have not sent a Republican to the Senate in over 35 years. Well, thieves have figured out a quick way to make money off of stolen phones. Fox 13's Matt Smith shows us how they're using kiosks set up inside busy stores to turn the stolen goods into cash.
It happens in a matter of seconds. Literally seconds. The FBI says a whopping 133 cell phones are stolen every minute. As we live our lives talking, texting, tweeting, companies are making it easy to recycle our old phones to pay for the next, but some even advertise fast cash.
Instead of turning into more clutter in a drawer or toxic waste in a landfill, these phones are turning into cash instantly.
The guts of your phone have real value. To the naked eye, it's not much, but inside your device, there's a small treasure trove of precious metals. To avoid waste, companies incentivize recycling with cold hard cash.
They're incentivizing people to commit crimes.
This is Lindsay. She was riding a bus when someone snatched her phone. It took hours of searching. It wasn't until the next day that her Find My Phone app led her to Cap Hill, where a homeless man told her it was likely inside that box at a nearby store. Which led her here, where she reopened her Find My Phone app.
I go into KFC and I'm looking at all my devices, 40 feet, 30 feet, 20 feet, 10 feet, and then all of a sudden there's this big box machine that's like Eco ATM, turning cell phones for cash on the spot.
Lindsay would eventually call police, who would get Eco ATM to remotely open the kiosk. Inside, they dug through countless phones, eventually finding her stolen device. Police in Seattle, Everett, Tacoma, and Puyallup all tell me they've dealt with Eco ATM and stolen phones. One department even calling them a great partner for helping get phones back. Lindsay and other victims say the company is part of the problem.
Like I said, very well masked, and what is, in my opinion, a stolen goods trafficking ring, essentially.
Eco ATM says they go to great lengths to avoid buying stolen goods. They do what's called a live verification. Now, if you're selling a phone, a real person is monitoring and approving a transaction in real time, verifying that state-issued ID and getting a picture of the seller. They also use a third-party service called CheckMend. Think of it as Carfax for phones. They gather records from cell carriers, police, the FBI, and more to detect if a phone is stolen. Eco ATM says, quote, if the device does not pass CheckMend's background check, the Eco ATM kiosk will reject the transaction. So we put their safeguards to the test. I marked multiple phones as lost, then used online websites to even list them as stolen. Then I ran the devices through CheckMend to see whether my work landed on their radar.
It says the legal title of an item matching your search term and category is in doubt. We recommend you do not purchase.
Yet hours later, Eco ATM offered cash for that exact phone. And again, even 15 days later, meaning it wasn't an issue with the system keeping up to date. Now, it is worth noting.
First, I'll check your ID.
Their verification process was hard to beat. Using a different ID, masks, and sunglasses, multiple attempts to trick the machine failed. If I wanted to sell that stolen phone, I was going to have to put my name and my face on camera. A deterrent, though, one criminals have clearly ignored. Old phones, all good. Cracked screen, no worries. No passcode, you can still pass go. Heck, you may even collect 200. You see, age and condition doesn't matter, but the more modern, the more money. And if you have the passcode to get in, you can grab a major payday. But even a stolen, locked phone like Lindsay's could pull a quick and easy $85. That's according to Eco ATM's own website's estimate. Eco ATM took days to respond, and once they did, they disputed our findings, despite saying They used checkmen to double-check phones. They state that checkmen tapped into the GSMA database and confirmed that neither device was reported as stolen. Long story short, checkmen shows it was stolen, but EcoATM states they didn't find a police report, so they purchased the phone anyways. Victims of phone theft question whether this business model is saving anyone.
While at its core, the business model isn't necessarily a bad thing, it shouldn't be built around those extreme incentives that do target people.
And that was Fox 13's Matt Smith reporting for us tonight. There are thousands of EcoATM kiosks in operation right now all across the country. Up next tonight here on West Coast Rap, anticipation building for Super Bowl Sunday in just a few weeks, and its halftime act, Usher. We'll tell you tonight about the big names that will be entertaining Super Bowl fans before the game even kicks off. Also, a wrong turn steered one driver into a whole lot of trouble in California. Coming up tonight, we'll have more on this close call in Fresno. A neighborhood in Salt Lake City, Utah says it is ready to welcome a Major League Baseball team. Businesses in the Power District of Salt Lake say they're already seeing an improvement in the area after plans to build a Major League ballpark were announced last year. The mostly industrial area is now starting to see more housing and shops. The project's still in the development phase, and it could be years away. Right now, there are no concrete plans for a team to move to Utah. We know more tonight about how Super Bowl organizers will get fans hyped up before this year's big game in Las Vegas. They announced today that Reba McEntire, Post Malone, and Andra Day will perform during pregame ceremonies. McEntire, a country music Hall of Famer, will be singing the national anthem. Singer and rapper Post Malone will be performing America the Beautiful, and Grammy Award-winning singer and songwriter Andra Day will sing Lift Every Voice and Sing. Super Bowl organizers announced months ago that Usher will be performing at halftime. A preview of his performance making the rounds on social media with images of Usher and fans singing to his hit song, Yeah. Usher has said he intends to give Super Bowl fans a show unlike anything they have seen before. Super Bowl Sunday is coming up on February 11th. Finally tonight, a close call in Fresno, California left one driver hanging off the edge of a construction site. The CHP says the driver, who was a senior who became disoriented and missed a road closed sign, ended up at the top of a hill overlooking a high-speed rail construction site. Photos from yesterday show the car's front wheels hanging off the edge of this dirt pile. Thankfully, no one was hurt here. Authorities say the man's car was taken away from him, and they are now recommending his driver license be reevaluated. But glad to hear everyone was okay there. That does it for West Coast Rap tonight. We appreciate you watching, and a reminder before we go, you can stay up to date on all the stories we're following at our website, westcoastrap.com. And we also want to make sure you know you can stream all of our shows right there on your smart TV. All you have to do is download the Fox Local app. Have a great rest of your night. I'll see you back here tomorrow.